All right, so in this lesson, we are going to rewrite expressions using something called the distributive property, which actually, you've heard of or you've used. So let's rewrite these simple expressions first. So 8 times x can be rewritten as 8x. 4 times y can be written as 4y. The reason why we get rid of that is it takes up less space. Sometimes things get crowded, and so we just want to write it as small as possible. So w times -7 is actually -7w, or we can rewrite as -7w. X times -6, we can rewrite that as -6x. And half times x can be written as half x. So what about 3 times 2? X. Well, remember that this is actually 3 times 2 times x. And with multiplication, you can multiply in any order. So let's multiply the 3 and the 2. So this is 6x. 4 times 5 times y is 20 times y. 20y. Remember, this is -4 times 7 times w, so negative times a positive, negative. 4 times 7 is 28. Then we put w. Negative times a negative is a positive, 12, and then we have an x. And then we have 1/3 times 4x. Remember, that's 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3, and then we have x. Now, let's see what happens here. So 9 times x times 2, or 9x times 2. Remember, this is 9 times x times 2. Order of multiplication, or straight multiplication, doesn't matter. So we get 18x. 7 times 6y is 42y. -1 times 6w is -6w, because a negative times a positive is a negative. And negative times a positive is a -4, and then we have an x. On this one, let's get rid of this. We're going to say that for later. So 2/3 x times 1/2. Well, 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And we get x, which is, or can be reduced by 2. So we get 1/3x. All right, so the distributive property, we've done this before. We've used this before. We've rewritten expressions using this. So I'm going to show you or remind you about what we did, and then I'm going to just do it a little quicker. So a times b plus c. Remember that we can write that as a times b. Or that's positive a. So plus a times c. So I'll give you some examples. So 2 times x plus 3. We can rewrite this as 2 times x. That's a positive. So plus 2 times 3. And let's look at this next one. 3 times 1x plus 4. We can rewrite this as 3 times 1x. It's positive. Plus 3 times 4. But instead of rewriting it like this, you can just 2 times x is 2x. A positive times a positive is a positive. 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 1x is 4x. A positive times a positive is a positive. 3 times 4 is 12. Not too bad. And let's look at these last 6 examples. So a negative times a positive is a negative. Or I guess I already used the negative. So 5 times 2x is 10x. And we have a negative times a positive, which is a negative. 5 times 3 is 15. So I don't want you to lose track of what we're doing or to forget about what we're really doing. All we're doing is taking 2 times x plus 3, and we just wrote it different ways. We took this one, the 3 times 1x plus 4, this expression, and we rewrote it a couple different ways. Remember, these are all equivalent. They just look different. So in this one, a negative times a positive is a negative. 10 times 0.8 is 8. And then we have x. Then we have a negative. Oh, let me write that first. Then we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. 10 times 4 is 40. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Well, let's back up. Remember, if there's nothing here, there's a 1. Or if nothing is shown, then there's a 1. So a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 3 is 3. So negative times negative is positive. 1 times 3 is 3. Then we have the x. So now we have a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 6 is 6. Or you can say negative 1 times a negative 6 is a positive 6. All right, a negative times a negative is a positive. Half times 8x is 4x. A negative times a positive is a negative. Half of 12 is 6. So negative 1/2 times negative 8x is positive 4x. And negative 1/2 times positive 12 is negative 6 or minus 6. Even when you end up with situations like this, well, remember, we can put a 1 here or a 1 here if that makes it easier for you. But a negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times x is 3x. Try the next one. A negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times y is 3y. And lastly, let's not forget this 1. So a negative times a negative is a positive 9. A negative times a positive times a positive is a negative 1x. So negative x. I'll put 1x for y'all. And then a negative times a negative is a positive. 1 times 4 is 4y. That's it. It's pretty simple. Thank you.